Welcome back to the sauce. Another little hiatus. We're going to stop that, guys. I promise we're going to get better on the schedule.
Well,
But
don't make
life
a
happens.
promise we can't cash.
But
Don't
life,
be don't be make
I promise we'll try. How about that? Uh,
effort.
yeah, I need to do a better job of under promising and over delivering as opposed to the opposite, which happens sometimes. Kevin Bauer and Irish Schofel were here with the sauce. You've been watching the first few episodes. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking a little bit more. Last time we talked, Kevin, Florida State had dropped their first game of the
Mm.
season. They lost at Virginia in a game that was just felt like a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of squandered opportunities, and everybody was frustrated about it. But I think we felt like okay, we could get back on track with a big win against Miami. That didn't happen, and now they've lost again to Pitt. So now Florida State is 3-3, and where are you at, man? I mean, there's a lot of. It's interesting, Corey after the game wrote a column on warchant.com basically saying that, he thinks Mike Norvell is definitely on the hot seat at this point, which I would agree with, especially looking at the rest of the schedule and where you are right now. If I don't think Mike Norvell's in the hot seat today, as in he's about to get fired, but I do think if you can't be pitted home, there's a lot of these other games that you can't chalk up as wins. And if this thing goes off the rails, you could be looking at maybe having to make a coaching change. I've had a couple of people email me and say you guys need to slow your roll, and just kind of you guys are by you guys talking about that in the
Mm.
media that's kind of pushing things or putting gas on the fire. Where are you at, man? You're
Sure.
you're a fan representative on this podcast. Where are you at?
The last thing you said for sure hit me. It's like I was thinking about that coming on here. Like I don't want to come on here and rip Mike as if this guy needs to get out of here. Go. It's not like that. It's just that after Virginia, when we talked last, after Virginia, you said it. It was a bunch of events that kind of came together, and you could see, the excuse, why it happened, and you're like, okay, well, you got to right this ship. We messed up. Here's the reasons why. Fix that. Then you go play Miami, and you go, oh, they're for real, for real. Everyone needs to watch out for Miami if they care.
Yeah,
And then they stop caring, and then the game gets close, and it's like, all right, well, that actually can help you in the season. We're still ranked top 25 because we didn't get murdered by Miami.
right.
And then I was talking to someone trying to encourage, hey, 2 losses ain't nothing. We're good. That's a big team we lost to. There's still hope because all we got to do are beat these teams that we're better than. And then I don't like to repeat people's, clever sayings, but White Lamar Jackson is just not, White Lamar Jackson at Pitt is not somebody you can lose to from 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 that athleticism and just running 100 miles per hour past that guy and watching him dink and dunk you all over the field. Their best receivers are running back. What? How can you have how where is all of the excuses that we had in Virginia that we can excuse away and say, all right, well, that just needs to get fixed? They opened up more problems.
Yeah,
They're opened up more problems. We're covering 275-pound men covering that running back who's 175 constantly, not on a random play to confuse the defense, but we're just manning up against them.
yeah.
I just don't think 41 should ever man up against 8 on any team. Those numbers don't mix and match well. It's
You never.
zero,
Just
eight,
as a
single digits on 41 is not where you want.
just as a rule, if you have a linebacker number 41, don't match him up on a single digit guy. That's your
Can't
rule.
happen. It can't happen.
I like,
Listen,
I like,
I've been good at college football video game forever with that one rule. Throw it at 41.
um, yeah, man. In the title of our podcast before the Miami game was, is this game do or die? Is it make or
Mm.
break? And we agreed. You convinced me that it wasn't, and I agree with you. And I came out of that game to your point. Saying the same thing. Like, man, they're still number 25, and if your two losses on the season are Miami and at Virginia in double overtime, you're going to be right there in the playoff conversation at the end of the year if you take care of business. And so it would have been nice at least if they weren't going to take care of business, it would have been nice if that happened a little bit further down the road,
Right.
not home the next week at Pitt. And to your point, White Lamar Jackson, as Corey called him after the game, Heinzel, their the freshman quarterback for Pitt, I think that's why I think things just escalated so quickly, and including myself. I mean, after that game, I'm just like, man, you look like they just looked incompetent on defense. Not just, hey, you had a bad day at the office, or that was a bad matchup, or that guy was unreal. And that
Well, I
quarterback,
think
he might be good, but you didn't do anything to not make him be good. I mean, it's just, it was incompetence. That defensive performance was just looked incompetent in every way.
I think it's yes, it's objectively incompetent because everyone watching, people that don't understand football at your level, at my level, as a coach's level, at any level, are watching that and going, well, when you only bring three people to tackle that guy every time, he's going to have some time.
Yeah.
And when you only bring three people, he's going to have time. And those receivers, those 41s aren't covering those receivers. This is not how that works. So the game plan was brutal and it never changed. It never, ever, ever changed. And that's the egregious part. If you come out with a game plan that's wrong, that's fine. Fix it. But everything stayed the same. I don't have as much complaints about offense as I do defense because I just don't know what I watched on defense. We're lacking people in the middle of the field, and that hurts your defensive linemen and your defensive backs. If you can't cover in the middle of the field, then they're basically screwed. And that's the situation we find ourselves in with not enough talent at linebacker to do something against the good teams. But we just lost to Pitt
Yeah.
because of it, because we don't know how to affect the quarterback in any way
Yeah. And I,
other than a 7-second sack. It's the only way we've affected the quarterback.
yeah, and we'll move on to other things. We won't just focus on the defense, but one thing I wanted to say about that was, again, from a play calling perspective, I'm not a big play calling guy because I don't know all the ins and outs of
Mm,
it. But um,
same here.
when they got them backed up inside the 2 yard line, the kid Fair catches the ball. I thought it was like at the one, but anyway, they put him at the two or the three, and those next couple of plays, you're just rushing three, and you've got a freshman quarterback that clearly their offense is going to be just drop him back on every play. They were not even pretending that they were going to protect him and save him from himself.
Correct.
I think a lot of teams in that situation are just going to maybe run the ball up the middle and give your punter some room and flip field position maybe a little bit. But that's not what they did. I mean, they came out right off the bat saying this, we believe in this kid and he's going to make plays for us. So they're dropping him back in his own end zone and you're only rushing three. And, just that was, it seemed to me that their decision, their determination was, we gave up all those big plays against Miami. We can't have that happen again. This is a freshman quarterback, so let's just sit back and let him throw the ball to us. But like that wasn't happening. And then to your point, when they did go to man, they end up having, guys who couldn't cover. And it's not just 41. I mean, their
Sure,
big
sure.
transfer linebacker, 31, Elijah Herring, couldn't cover him either. And really nobody could. And so he has 8 catches for 155 yards. So terrible defense performance, but I think that was something that we touched on yesterday on Seminole headlines this week. That the weird thing about this situation, from a big picture perspective, is it's not crazy to have a new defensive coordinator, three new defensive coaches, a whole new defensive system, and for there to be some growing pains, feeling out process, figuring stuff out. Like especially you win the Alabama game and everything looks like, man, this guy's a genius. This thing is dialed up. They're going to be great. And then you have the two cupcake games, so you don't learn anything. Now you get into these last few games, and it's like these are the games where they're starting to figure things out. Like maybe he's still figuring out his personnel. Maybe the players are figuring him out. Like it's all fluid. It would be a lot to expect a new defensive coordinator in year one. I mean, for it to all just be clicking, but the problem is, from a big picture perspective, Mike Norvell is in year 6, and they just went 2-10, and they need a quick fix. That's why you went to Malzahn, because you felt like he could be a quick fix, and so, and to some degree, that's happened. That's the problem here. Like I don't know how it's going to be hard for people to evaluate. And I'm sure, as you're watching it, and I know you try to be level-headed, but I mean, it's hard to be patient when
Mm,
you've lost as many games as they've lost the last 2 years.
yeah, yeah.
So
Because that's the thing is once
how
you
do you
once you
how do you process it?
well, it's kind of one of those things where it's a loss. I mean, but when you get that loss, they're going to post on ESPN that you've lost 11 straight, and they're going to post that what's going on with this. I mean, you see that in the moment, so all that weight gets put together. But as far as like, I hear you and I absolutely agree with you, but I have a little pushback on this is a new coordinator and they're still in flow and learning it. And I agree, and that's all valid. But that can be the case, and then you still make adjustments in game
Yeah.
because there's been no game adjustments. That we didn't have to have them in Alabama or the second two games, but there's been no adjustments that are obvious to the viewer that things are changing when things are going wrong. And quickly to circle back to the goal line when they're backed up against it in our goal line, is it the chicken or the egg? Is Narduzzi saying, yeah, run him, pass? They're bringing three. They're bringing three every time. Is it the chicken or the egg there? Are we out coached by a coach that's coached a lot of football, way more football than the guys on that staff other than Malzahn? Are we out coached by a guy just going, I'm going to win this football game versus I need to fix my issues in my 6 years coach? I feel like there's some of that goes on the sideline where I feel like when we play guys like Narduzzi, he's just trying to win this game on this Saturday. And I don't even blame Mike for that. I think that's just what happens when you're in year 6 and on the hot seat, that pressures build, and then you're maybe not making the best decisions in those moments. Speculation. I can't know that, but
Right. No, and I mean that's where again, I think where that game to me was kind of I'm not gonna say a tipping point, but it feels like it definitely there's some accelerant poured on things in that game because um, there weren't a lot of circumstances that were in Pitt's favor. The Virginia game, you did feel like, okay, it's your first road game. You got that on Kent State and East Texas A&M. You already had the win against Alabama. You're feeling so good about yourself. That was a game where, everybody going into it said it was probably a trap game, so much so that I felt like it couldn't be a trap game because it was talked about
mm-hmm.
so much. But they were at home. They've got a 6 year, whatever quarterback is 24, 25 years old. Um, you know, Circumstances, a game didn't go your way, calls didn't go your way, turnovers. I mean, just like everything, the recipe Virginia needed to win that game kind of all came together. And those happen in sports, and you just chalk it up and say, okay, well, that sucked. But over the course of a season, we'll figure it out. And then Miami's just better than you. I still don't think they're that much better than you to be up 28-3, but you didn't
Mm-hmm.
play well, and so that's where you are. But this game, like I feel like everything should have been in your favor. You are at home. That kid's making his first start at quarterback on the road. Pitt had some injuries to deal with. Their offensive line was banged up. They did get Desmond Reed back, and Florida State apparently didn't get the memo that he was going to be available. And so it's less excusable, the fact that it's on top of these other losses that were maybe a little bit more excusable, or you could live with. And again, like last year, I made the argument that I'm not going to hold last year against this team every week because that happened. It was a different coaching staff. It was a different roster, but these guys can't have to wear that every week is the scarlet letter around their chest. But here we are. You lose to a
No.
team you shouldn't lose to, and it's like, man, there's just no grace anymore. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I mean, it's even beyond what's fair and what's not fair. Because I always wrestle with that. I didn't think Willie Taggart should have been fired midway through his second season because I feel like that's real early. But I think the people behind the scenes saw enough things behind the scenes
Mm.
that were troubling
Yes.
that they needed to make the move. So you understand it. Um, this is not a fairness issue, I don't think anymore. I mean, it's year 6. Um, there's been tough circumstances, but a lot of the mess is they've created it. Um, but the question I think is what's best for Florida State. To me, it's not. This is whatever happens now with Mike Norvell is not a fairness issue to me. It's what's best for Florida State, and I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I don't know
Right.
if the answer is better to start over because there's no guarantee there, or to keep biding your time because you might be here a year from now or 2 years from now saying, guys, what were you thinking? Like the
Right.
signs were everywhere. This team gets worse. Um,
Right.
so I don't know, man. I'm at a loss. I don't know.
I think a couple talking points. These are just words, so understand that, but that's what we're doing. We're just talking. We lost to Virginia in an unholy way. Everything convulged, turnovers, all the things played out, and you're just like, oh my gosh, we just lost that game. Miami beat you, beat you. You lost the game to Pitt.
Right.
You lost a football game to Pitt in the third quarter. There's plenty of momentum on that young quarterback when he's throwing ridiculous interceptions to capitalize on that, and momentum that can be built off of that. And not even that he needs to throw another interception for us to take the game, but just he can't get every third down. He can't get
You
a
can't get
third and
comfortable
17
again.
scramble when, yeah, this is not, it's that emboldens his confidence so much and then wrecks our confidence. And when you compile that, that's how that game plays out. So that's why I say we lose the game. And then with fairness, I think that's exactly how I have looked at this. I cringe at the guy that week one was like, Kalen DeBoer needs fired. Get him out of here. Kind of get it because I look at him and I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a human, but he's a little robotic for me. But point being, I'm not a fan of fire that coach, fire that coach, fire that coach. I'm never the guy that says fire that coach, fire that coach, fire that coach. I am here going, do we have to do that? Because the fairness this week, it's basically what I came to a head on is the excuses are valid. I know why you have these excuses. In every scenario that went wrong, I know why these excuses exist. It's year 6. Things need changed. This needs fixed. And fairness goes out the window when you've given 6 years to fix something. Even if there are crazy circumstances in those 6 years, that's still 6 years for you to navigate. Because there are other people that have coached those 6 years and navigating it better than what's happening in 2025. So it's not about fairness. And then it comes down to your point of what is best for FSU. Can you really look at this guy and be like, there's definitely someone better out there right now, especially in the context of all the other teams that are going to be wanting to hire a coach? There's just a lot of things to consider. I am at the point of like, if we lose to Stanford, it's obvious. If we lose one of these games that are just another game where we just lose, if the ship's not righted and we're not trying hard and those guys are trying their best and just losing games because they weren't enough, that's the only scenario I see that unless we win 7 or 8 games that he's back, and that I want him back because I think there's a lot in Mike, and I think it's just a matter of getting your defensive coordinator in for 2 years. But is that guy going to be here? Is that guy taking another job already? We don't know. So there's a lot of things that you have to assume to make your decision in your mind which way you want to lean. But at the end of the day, Florida State, to me, is making the best decision by not rushing, firing a guy because he lost to this game to Pitt. But the writing's on the wall that hopefully somebody can go over there and erase it right now.
Yeah, I think when again, like it's such a weird place right now where I think most people have formed their opinions to some degree about whether or not Mike can be the guy. Like, can he? Because if you think back, and it's such a weird tenure. His tenure is strange. The first year and a half, 2 years, you're in COVID and all the challenges of that, which we've all discussed a million times. Then you start turning it around. You go heavy in the portal and you turn it around in 2022, 23. Great run, 19 straight wins. All that's great. But then last year happened. And I think a big part of what happened last year was, the over reliance on the portal and where he lost his way. And I think when you look from a big picture standpoint, if it doesn't work out, if they lose some of these games down the stretch and the administration finally gets to the point where we don't care that it's over $50 million, we just have to do something. If that happens, and I think it is on the table, some people still say it's not on the table, it's too much money. We'll see how it plays out. But if you're the reason I say it is because I just look at that stadium that they just poured all that money into that they're going to be paying off for decades. They have to fill it. And I don't know how many
Mhm.
people are lining up for tickets if this season continues to go sideways. So we'll see how that plays out. But you could be a good coach. You could be a good guy. You could be an excellent coach and have made mistakes that doom you. Like
Yes.
those two things can be true. I've in my career on a smaller level, I had a job interview once that I really thought I wanted that job, and I went into the interview, and I'm sure I could have done a great job in that job if I had gotten the job. It's really the only job that I've applied for that I just bombed the interview. Like I didn't. It wasn't a matter of we couldn't come to terms. It wasn't a matter of I just was. I when we got done, I was so negative. I was in such a negative place in my life at that point with my previous job where I was trying to get out of that
Hmm.
I was very negative in the interview. And when I walked out, I was like, I wouldn't hire that guy. All he did was bitch about what he doesn't like about his current job. So, but I think I could have liked that job. I think I could have done a good job in that job, and I was kind of mad about it for a little while. But I did bomb the interview, you know? And so
Right.
you could be an excellent coach or say a good coach, whatever you want to say about Mike Norvell, but there's mistakes he's made that have gotten them to this place. You know, they
Right.
did over rely on the portal. He did let his offensive line coach not develop young players and just assume he was going to be able to keep getting guys out of the portal. He didn't put a big enough emphasis on recruiting. I mean, that's fair to say. It's. I don't think it's an opinion. It's reality. Um, you know, and so now here you are. Um, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean he's not a good coach. Doesn't mean he couldn't have been a good coach, but I do think he made mistakes that have come back to haunt him. And so when you watch this game and you watch Tony White's defense and you say, well, dude, some of those guys you're putting out there can't do what you're expecting them to do. Now, ultimately, that's on the coach. You got to figure that out. You can't have 41 covering that guy.
Right.
You can't have that defensive end who's really maybe a defensive tackle trying to get a quarterback on the ground in space. Um,
Yep.
that's on you as a play caller and schemer, but also we also can understand he doesn't have great talent to work with. It's not a super talented front seven, but that's ultimately back on Mike Norvell. So
Right.
it's it's a tough usually I think Willie Taggart I think was pretty easy for those coaches for the administration to decide. Like this guy's not organized, he doesn't have his finger on the players, there's no accountability, it's rudderless and they're not good. So we need to make a change. This is
Right.
different. You know, there are things you really like about Norvell, but a lot of the problems are his own doing. Even though I do think he could be a good coach.
Right. No, I totally agree. I said to someone this week at work that I feel strongly that if Mike's not here, I still feel strongly that there's a good Mike's going to flirt with national titles for the next 10 or 15 years, assuming that he doesn't go and take a job at Arkansas State if he were to lose this job. I don't think that's going to be the case, but the the guy the kids that he's connected with, even throughout the losses, and like the kids still love him, even the ones that are not okay. A lot of the kids still love him. There's clear bond and connection that he has with these kids, and they want to play for him. So as soon as he gets the elite guys with that same level of buy-in, it's going to happen. The guy cares to coach. But to your point, your circumstances still exist. If you go back to Jimbo and you don't know he's leaving A&M, I'm sitting there going, this is screwed. He can't get the locker room back. What can he do to fix favoriting five players over the rest of the team? How do you do that? You can't do it. Those are decisions you made that are permanent. Just like when you have a girlfriend, you walk up to another girl and be like, hey, can I get that number? You've made that decision and your girlfriend will remember it. And there's maybe you've got a great life ahead, but you made that decision. She's going to remember that.
Yeah.
So we've had a few asking too many girls out, holding our girlfriend's hand moments right now. And it's like, is she going to stick it out? Is she there for us? And I think to your point, it's not a referendum on his coaching ability. It is the situation we're in and where do we go from now. It's not about the excuses. It's not about anything. I like the guy. I hope he has the most success, and I hope it's here at Florida State. But where do we go from now? It's the question, and everyone's wondering it. And you said it earlier. I think he's on the hot seat, but not at risk of being fired tomorrow. I think that's exactly it. It's, hey man, again, you know, I'll say this about my coworker. She's a Vol. She likes she likes those Tennessee Vols. I don't know what happened. She went to school there. It's fair enough. But she sends a message this weekend and says, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." And then I said, "I'm sorry about wearing those rose-colored sunglasses earlier this year." And she said, "Well, they gave us the blueprint last year."
Yeah.
And that hurt me in my heart. I was like, shut up. That's what I said in my head. Like, shut up. This is a different team. What are you talking about? And that's a weird split because it is a different team, but it still happened. And we're
Yeah.
still in a situation where I don't think players are in positions. That's not true. Players are in positions. Players are not
They're not max.
coached to win the game at the end of the game. That doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened. When we've won, we've blown people out. When
Right.
we've had success in this era, we've blown people out. We've had close games. I don't mean it that way. I just mean that when games are in the balance, sometimes find that we don't win them. I guess 2023 is a
Yeah.
different thing. It's hard because that exists. That still exists. That's the thing with Mike is 23 exists. And it was very real. And it feels incomplete because you got snubbed. So it's like, let's not hold on to the past and hold this against him, but also we kind of got to look at the past and see what he's done. And I don't know. It is a difficult situation. I'm glad to see that we haven't fired our coach when Penn State did and all that. I thought we're going to see something just fire off and we're going to follow the leader. I like that that's not been the case.
Yeah, and I think the difference there is, and I firmly believe the difference there is that James Franklin has done nothing to get equity with people, the decision makers. He's been a pain in their ass for a long time. I know that anytime Florida State's job comes open, his name is one of the first names floated out there, and he does it everywhere because what he does is kind of like Jimbo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when he knows he was a hot commodity, so he would have his agent put his name out there for every job in an effort to get more power, more things he wanted, either more money or
Yeah.
more staff or more, whatever. He would play that game constantly. And just like Jimbo found out, I mean, at the end, when Jimbo wanted to coach the last game and Florida State was finally like, all right, dude, we're done. No, you're not coaching that last game because and the problem is you have nobody on your side at that point anymore because you've alienated everybody and people are tired of making excuses for you. So when time comes and somebody puts you in their sights, and same thing at Texas A&M. I mean, that was very quick firing. Well, we heard the same things from people I talked to who work at Texas A&M or been at that program that, he was even more difficult in some ways than he was in Tallahassee because they had paid him $100 million or whatever. So, that's when things aren't going well, you don't have any support left. And that's it's the exact opposite for Mike. Besides the buyout, he
Right.
does have a lot of equity with a lot of people because he treats people well. He's a good guy. Like people, they've seen him how he operates for 6 years. And they want him to be successful. And to your point, you talked about the players liking him and the connection there and why that's important. And I've watched a few of the former player podcasts that are out there. Jordan Travis has one that's getting a lot of pub on social media because he's so defensive about Mike Norvell. But there's another one. Robert Cooper has one where it's him and Kalen DeLoach and I think Christian Meadows, former players, and they're all of the opinion that back off of Mike. They like Mike Norvell.
Mm-hmm.
They believe in him. Um, but I do think um, I think it's a complicated issue because I think he works for certain players and maybe doesn't work for other players. I think if you're self-motivated and if you are coming at it from the right mindset and um, you're accountable, I think that that's a good fit. I do think there's certain players maybe he doesn't fit well, and I think you look at that team last year, he couldn't get through to those guys,
Mm-hmm.
and so now again, I don't want to use last year, keep dragging up last year, but it did happen. And now you're in a 3 game losing streak, and it needs to not be, if they win this game, it needs to not just be because Stanford's awful, right?
Mhm.
Like I think
Yeah.
this game, even if Florida State doesn't lose this game, I I do think he can help himself if they just look like they're competently coached, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. You're not turning the ball over. And like you said, it's hard to be too critical of the offense, but I've just posted a story on the website about the turnovers and the fumbles, and it's like 3 games in a row at Virginia. It's a 0-0 game. Both defenses are trading punts, and you fumble at your own 38-yard line. That's how Virginia gets their first touchdown. That's when they start feeling, oh man, this could be our night. And you fought that inertia the entire night because you
Hmm.
fumbled at your 38-yard line. Go to the Miami game. It's 14-3 before in the second quarter. You've got the ball at midfield. You're starting at the 50-yard line. If you just get like 10, 15 yards, probably with that kicker, you're in field goal range. You make it a 1-score game before halftime. You fumble again. Different kid, but you fumble again.
Hmm.
This game against Pitt, you've got a lead. You're up 3 in the fourth quarter. You're up 24-21. You're driving. You're past midfield. You can make it a 2-score game. You've been running it down their throats. I didn't love the game plan in the third quarter, but they are running the ball well. And then you fumble again, and now Pitt goes in and ties it up, and you lose that game. So those are 3 different running backs. They're all, and it's not like that's the main reason you lost, but it's like there's so many of those things. There's so many of
Right.
those things. You can't make a tackle in space. You've got bad matchups on defense. You fumble the football when you have a chance to go up by 2 scores, take control of a game. You have these empty possessions when you need them. At some point, isn't that just a bad football team? Isn't that just what a
Right.
bad football team is?
100%. 100%. Because when you listed off all those things, I wanted to interrupt you and say accidental QB draws on 3rd and 16.
Yeah,
Like those can't happen. And they always do.
yeah.
So I guess
Yeah, like that
that's
that
where I'm at with the
situation. I think
excuses of
the real
like,
quick. I think the play you're talking about, it's third and forever, and Tommy starts to scramble. It's like, man, there's no way in the world you're going to get that first down.
right,
It's just never going to happen. There's no way you're going to get that first down. So why even take the 5 yards? Like, I
right.
keep extending it and try to hope you get a pass
And
interference
that,
call or something. But
and that,
there's like the situational awareness on
right.
this team is
And
really low.
that play is not like damning in any way that like, oh my
No.
gosh, you got hit and he's hurt. It's why? Why? How is that? How is I guess there's awareness issues, and I don't know if I mean awareness certainly it's certainly coached. It's certainly coached, but it's also dependent on the player. Like
Oh,
people have
it's
awareness at different levels, right? But
well, it's talent acquisition, and it's
yeah.
and it's yeah, you could say it's not just coached. It has to come from the players, and that's fair. But sometimes it's a mindset, right?
Mm,
It's
right.
it's a mindset. There was a kid, Georgia Tech had a kid a few years
Truly.
ago when the former coach at Georgia Tech, who ended up getting fired, he had a quarterback on fourth down with the game on the line, roll out of bounds, roll out and just go out of bounds. And it's like, man, I don't think that's a healthy program. There's
Yeah.
no way,
I agree. I
right?
agree that is a referendum. Those things are referendum on I'll say it, culture. No, on a team's ability and
Where
are
you're,
they a football team? Are they a football team and are they caring about the little things? I talked to a guy, I was playing softball last night. Craziest swing I've ever seen from anyone. It was ridiculous. But anyway, I said, "Did you swing like that in baseball?" Assuming that he played. He's like, "No, I played football." It's like, "Oh, what'd you play?" This dude's like 5'6", muscle hamster. He's like slot receiver. I was like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, I don't remember why I brought my guy up from softball. What were we just talking about?
just bad football teams and
Just bad football
referendums.
teams.
Yeah.
Right. And like I don't know, I've lost my point why I brought him up, but
No, it's no big
just
deal.
you're a referendum on when your team it is a shadowing of you're not playing as a football team when you have the leader of your team making just a decision that can't be made by your team. By your leader. I don't love my boy Pavia from Vandy. I don't love some of the things he says, but we know that that guy wants it almost more than anyone in front of him.
Yeah.
And that might be a little extra. He might have a little extra that he doesn't need, but you know he's going to get the things that he needs. And I wonder when I watch somebody kind of make a decision in a big moment on 3rd and 13. It's you're fielding the ball at shortstop and there's a guy on first and you throw it over to first. How do you not know it's a double play ball? How do
Or
you not know that beforehand
the
as
thing
a
that
quarterback in Division One?
right, or the things that kill you as a fan of a baseball team, and especially when it's not a good baseball team, is when you've got runners at second and third, one out, no outs, and you get two good hitters come up and they're all swinging
Mm,
for the fences. And it's like, bro,
mm.
we just need one run. Could you just please
Need
make
a sack.
contact? Right?
Need
Could
a
you
sack.
in the good and then you play a good team and that's what they do. Right? And so that kind of stuff as a fan, you don't have to be good at sports. And again, we all can relate it. You bring up
Yeah.
softball. I play pickleball. I was playing, and I'm not very good at pickleball, but I'm playing with a guy who is really good. And I have a tendency sometimes to go for shots that probably I shouldn't go for sometimes. And late in the game we're playing, and this game, it doesn't mean anything. It's one of 50 games we're going to play that week. It's not a big deal. But the guy leans over to me at one point. And he goes, "Hey man, no more lobs, no more tough shots. Just keep the ball in play." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right, 100%. I just need to keep the ball in play." And some of these plays on defense, you just got to get the guy on the ground. Like you
Right.
can't you don't have to deflect the pass in the flat. You just can't jump in the air and let the quarterback run for 30 yards.
You have to make the smart football play.
That's what yeah, exactly. And there are times, you know, that's it doesn't and I think that's one of the things that's kind of weighing on me as I think about this situation is the way they've played the last two or three games, they don't look like a smart football team. And I think that was one of the things Mike Norvell talked about when he got hired was, you want to have a smart football team. They don't look like a smart football team. They don't really even seem like a super likable football team right now. And those things matter too. It's not just the
Right.
results. And so I just think all of it, again, I feel like I'm trying to make the case for why he needs to go and I'm not. I just,
Right.
but
I don't hear that. I don't hear that
okay.
from you.
Well, I just it's a there's it feels like there's more things that
Hmm.
as you watch them that make you think, well, what are you holding on to here? Like what are the good
Sure.
it's you go back to relationships, which we do a lot. It's, when you're fighting and fighting and fighting to keep relationship together and there's not really a lot of great times and you're like, well, why are we fighting so hard to keep this?
Right.
And
Right.
I don't know.
I, I think you and I mean, we've not really discussed at length at any point of like, hey, what do you think about Mike and his status here? That's not something we've talked about, but I think we're on the same side of the coin here of like, I just keep seeing more that's not what I need to be seeing from the coach. It doesn't mean that that's not going to change at some point, but I'm more on the side of like, man, you can't be doing all that than I was last week and the week before and the week before. And I generally, all of last year, thought nothing of Mike's tenure here and thinking that it's in jeopardy. Nothing. It doesn't matter. That happened. We saw what was happening. You just got to figure it out the next year.
Right.
And I think that's what's so discouraging is I don't think we're about to go 3-9. I don't think that's about to happen. I just last year happened, and then you're like, oh, we righted the ship. You beat Alabama, and it's okay to lose to Virginia, and it's okay to lose to Miami, but you can't lose that game. And maybe we went out and you figured it out, and you're everyone's bought in, and everything's fixed, and the next year rolls around, and Tommy gets a sixth year.
Yeah.
What are we even talking about?
No, it's all possible.
But you're
Yeah,
sitting here now
possible.
in a moment at 3-3 in a year that you're sitting 3-0 in the top 10, beating Alabama. That still happened, and you have to live up to that. Just because you got yourself to that position doesn't mean it's okay to drop back out of the top 25. And if I don't know, you can't say they screwed themselves by winning that Alabama game because you win that game. It's just so confusing how you win that game and then continue to go on and do that. I think that's the confusing part
Well, I
because
think we
I
have
don't ascribe to the first game jitters and Alabama was just nervous, but maybe it is. They just got smacked in the mouth and they're like, "Dang, this is a good football team." And then when we started playing other football teams, everyone else recognized, oh, they're not going to do what they did against Alabama. Because I think that's a lot of it. The Virginia and the Miami game and the Pitt game, their game plan was, oh, let's just not do what Alabama tried to do because that's all they're gonna be able to do. That's their game plan to stop us, and then everyone's exposed that. Three
Yeah,
down linemen stopping the run didn't work except for Alabama.
yeah, I think yeah, we now have enough evidence to be very confident in saying that Alabama wasn't ready to play that day.
Yeah.
I think we can. Yeah, and I'm not. That's not to diminish Florida State, but Alabama clearly was not ready to play. They looked at FSU's film from 2-10 and said, "Well, this is going to be a joke." And it's too late once you get into the game to try to change that. And
Exactly.
Florida State took advantage of it. I do wonder about the world where, because for a second I thought to myself after that loss to Pitt, I was like, well, if they had lost, what if Alabama had come to play? And if you lose that game, would you be 2-4? With the only two wins being Kent State and East Texas A&M? And if that was the case, what would you be thinking? But then I was like, well, it's the butterfly effect. Like
Yeah.
if you had lost that game, maybe you're focus. You don't lose to Virginia, and maybe you don't lose to Pitt. So maybe you're 4-2 in that world. I don't.
Right.
You never know how it's going to play out. It's interesting, man. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if we'll come to a decision until I don't know. And me personally, in terms of what I think should happen, I'm at the point now where if they had fired him on Sunday, I wouldn't have been outraged. And I feel
Mhm.
like if his buyout wasn't 50 something million dollars, if it was $15 million, the end of his contract, I think they probably fire him on Sunday. But here we are. But where I am at the point is I don't know that I could push back either way. Like I'm not in the camp anymore of you've got to give the guy more time because it's just not working. That doesn't mean it couldn't, to your point. And I'm not being wishy-washy here. There is a world where you beat Stanford, you beat Wake Forest, you have the next best game of your season against Clemson, and now all of a sudden we're not having this conversation. That is a possibility. It's not even like out of the mind possibility, but it's also possible they lose one of these next two games against Stanford or Wake, and then that may be the time. So I don't know where this is going to go, man. I really don't. And I don't have a strong feeling of what should happen, and that's a weird place to be.
Sure. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, I don't know how much insight you'd have on this, but in your opinion, is this a situation that if this is a weird hypothetical, but let's just say there's three versions of Mike, this version of Mike, neutral version of Mike, and scorched earth jerk version of Mike, like Jimbo and Franklin. Is there, in your opinion, a situation where if he was neutral and or scorched earth that he's 100% fired, even with the buyout? Or do
Uh,
you think that I guess what I'm
yeah.
asking is, do you think him being a good guy and everyone knowing that holds weight? Because I think it should, personally. I think a leader being a good guy holds weight. I don't think the world feels that way, but I think you see it when you see a good dude leading something or a good lady leading something, everything's better because of it.
I think it definitely held weight after last season, during last
Mhm.
season, and after last season, and I think that's why they did what they did. Like I think that's why they, you know, wanted to make all these changes and pour more money
Rehall.
into it and try to help him because they do believe in him, and I think they wanted to succeed with him. If you didn't want to, if he was just a even neutral or like you said, just a terrible person to work with, yeah, I don't know that they help him out. Maybe they just
Mhm.
let him die in the vine. Um, you could say they're protecting their investment by putting more money into it, which is true. But I do feel like there was a concerted effort to really help him out. But at some point, yeah, I mean, you just get to where it's like, hey man, I love you. You're a good guy, and we all have it in our workplaces. I've had employees
Mhm.
that I liked, and it's like, man, I'm trying so hard here, man, but you keep you keep forgetting to bring this thing to work. You keep
Right.
forgetting to do this, and so or you just for whatever reason everything screws up when you're involved. Like you just can't get it right. And at some point, you're like, man, maybe it's going to work for you somewhere else, and we hope that's the case, but it's just
Right.
not working out here. So I do think it's been in his corner, but I don't know if that's an eternal thing. I think at some point you run out of
Right.
One of
100%.
the ways. So yeah, I don't know, man. We could probably talk about this for hours and hours
Hmm.
and hours. Anything else we should touch on with this that you think we haven't touched on so far?
Well, I just figured we would just do W's and L's for the rest of the season right
Oh,
now.
let's map it out. It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, feel like we'd be on the same page. No, I don't know. I am in no way encouraged in this season moving forward, but I'm not sitting here with fear. I think we go and win the next two games, and then we have to see what happens after that. And I'm real hopeful that I'm right about winning those next two games. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, at the end of the day, 5-3, it's a world of difference. It's like the football score. You know, when you're up 31-17, it looks huge, but that's not that big of a deal.
right.
That 5-3 is going to look a worlds different than this 3-3 we're sitting at for this past week. You
Yeah,
know, it's just.
yeah.
But
But
where's the
that's what I.
future program going? You know,
But I
five and
do.
three is not where we need to be.
But I do think
Yeah,
that that's where I mentioned earlier. I do think it needs to be just not that Stanford's worse than you.
correct.
I think it would be good for him if it's not just man Stanford. We don't walk out of that game going, yeah, Florida State's still not any good, but Stanford, ooh, they're
Yeah.
terrible. It would be impressive. It could do something for him. I don't think there's a lost cause if they look good, especially going across the country, and then to come back from that trip and then come home and look good against Wake Forest. That would all be positive too.
Put it
Um,
this way, he can throw some more negatives on the slate. He can't I can't add any more positives in these next two games. We can't come away from either of these games and be like, oh, well, that's great. That's a chunk up in the right direction. We can see slides down the ladder again in these next two games, even in wins. I agree with you there. That's we go out there and win a sleepy game against Stanford.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right, man. Well, I enjoyed it. I'm glad we got back together, and we
No,
need to be. I'm
absolutely.
not going to promise it, but
No, we can't do that.
our intention is to be more regular when we can. So I appreciate it, Kevin, and we'll talk next time on the sauce.
All right. See you Thanksgiving.